You talk about racing a little bit, Ned, and it's something that I think there's a resurgence in racing. It may not be at the level it was, but how have you seen that segment change? What changes you've seen?
Well, it's sort of like we hit a doldrums. The doldrums was right after the Atlanta Olympics. You know, everybody thought, I was on the Norba board, USA Cycling, and everybody had the idea that mountain biking was going to go through the roof after the Atlanta Olympics. The reality was that, well, there were 56 cameras out there on the Olympic course to capture the event. A tremendously expensive endeavor. And the race was, well, rather predictable. It was not a great sporting event to watch on TV. And it really didn't come off. And things went down from there. And, it wasn't double-digit failure. It was single-digit failure. And it came down, and really what's happened since then is, a couple of phenomena. One is that North America is the world capital of trail building. There's more incredible trails these days than ever before. I mean, people ask me, 10 years ago, someone was asking me, well, what's the greatest technological event to come along in the last few years? And I say, the trails. The trails are incredible. And indeed, the trails in the United States have brought back a lot of riders. The other thing, and it's coming, is the National Interscholastic Cycling Association. Woo-hoo! Kids on bikes. And that's what's going to drive the future.
Marley, you only recently retired from racing. How have you seen it evolve from your days at the beginning till the end and now going forward?
Well, there was the heyday, and that was the 90s. I came into it in about 93, turned pro, and we went through the big climb, peak. We were making six figures as pros. We were living like rock stars, and we can talk about the partying in a little bit, but it was like the big heady days, and it was bound to equilibrate. The novelty was bound to wear off. Everybody had been to a Norba, or they had been to the series, and they were ready for something new, and it kind of never really changed. The festival atmosphere was going away, and then there were just people trying to make money. The resorts were trying to make money. So there was no more camping allowed, no more music, no more drinking and booze, and that was the part I liked. So that kind of fun atmosphere kind of wore off, and people got very professional, very serious, because they were making good money. And it all kind of crashed around 97, 98. And now, it's kind of ramping up again. There's a lot of participation, but people have tried the racing. They like it, and they might go to some festivals, but the series need some new ideas. So I think there are some new promoters coming around with some really good ideas. But it has to incorporate drinking, camping, music, riding your bikes, having fun. The community, it has to be like that. It has to be edgy. It has to be unique to the area. It has to have personality. It can't just be the same old thing every weekend. So that's what I see.
Hans, I don't know how many events you probably have been to, but what are some of the better mountain bike events and festivals in your experience?
Well, I think lately it's been the big festivals, where there's a lot going on and where this whole lifestyle comes as part of it, because there's so many different reasons why people compete or ride a bike, and in these festivals there's the most different opportunities. You can race it and try to be fast, or you can just be there and hang out. You can go to the expo, you can go on rides, on tours, and like the Lake Garda Festival or Rock d'Azur in Europe, there's some really big events where there's really 20, 30, 40,000 people coming over a weekend, and with the whole free ride boom that kicked in, that opened the door to a whole new market of people who would have never considered calling themselves cyclists before. And it brought some young blood in there, and it brought some lifestyle in, and a lot of sports are driven by lifestyle, and so is mountain biking. And I think in the old days, it was so new, and it was exciting, and like you met these new people. They all had something in common, the bike, and of course that wore off after a while, and we all got spoiled. The events grew bigger. The factory teams had a big rig, and then next year they had an even bigger big rig, and then an even bigger, and it was almost like expected. And at the same time, the federations and the people really in charge who could have directed the sport maybe into a better direction, I don't think they always done the right job or the best job they could have done. And I think, quite frankly, there's a lot of opportunities were blown when opportunities like the X Games came along or so, where at the time, I remember mountain biking was the most professional of all sports that were in the first X Games in '95. And even then, the ESPN people told me they were the most unprofessional to deal with. And, and there was opportunity to create some really cool events, maybe made for TV. Maybe they had to be a bit different than the Norba series at the time. And as a result of that, mountain biking almost got excluded from that extreme world. Like look at Fuel. They don't bring mountain biking because it's not really fits that category. And there's a lot of other examples like this, but to a long story short, I think festivals is where it's at and where that whole spirit can be relived, even slightly different.